Today we have a family sedan that can be both practical and still somewhat fun to drive. This is the 2024 Nissan Altima with their VC turbo, so that gives it more power and pep. But we're going to take a look at the exterior, the interior, and get it out on the road for a test drive and take a look at everything. All right, y'all, let's take a look at the exterior details of this VC turbo Altima. So first of all, this SR trim VC turbo is second from the top. Now, starting with things up front, gonna get this very familiar Nissan grille. It's their V-Motion grille, which was actually updated a little bit last year for 2023. You can see the SR badge and their newer emblem. You've got LED turn signals with their signature daytime running light, and all trims are gonna get LED headlights now too. Now, the paint on this color is called Deep Blue Pearl. It's actually got a nice little metallic-y flake to it as well. It's nice. You don't see a blue paint a whole lot, especially with these press cars. Now, these are 19-inch wheels right here. You're also going to get black mirrors with this SR particular trim level with the turn signal in the mirror as well. And dimensionally, this is 193 inches long, which is actually the same length as the Maxima. So you think of the Maxima as a bigger car, the Altima more mid-size. This is the same size, but even more spacious with its cargo area. Now, Nissan gives us an independent suspension, and this SR trim level actually gives us a Sport Tune suspension. So we'll talk about that in the test drive. You're gonna get incandescent lights back here. A little bit surprised by that considering the price point and second from the top trim. But this is really all about having that turbo engine in here. Then you get a dual exhaust coming down. Now, taking a look at the trunk of the Altima, this is a good sized trunk. It's not massive, but it is still a good sized trunk for this class and for the overall size of the vehicle. So this is about 15.5 cubic feet. You've got a little touchpad right underneath with the smart key system, and you can see it's pretty wide. I mean, you got some good coverage in those corners. You even got a little tie down area, kind of a hook there that you've got on both sides, and it's fairly deep. So I mean, this is a good opening overall, and definitely, you know, if you're looking for a good sized trunk with a sedan, this is going to answer that for you. Plus, you've got folding seats, the ability to do that. And then under here, you've got your jack, and right under there, you've got your spare tire. Now let's take a quick look at the key fob here. So Nissan gives you the same key fob that they've been giving you, not the updated version, but this does have remote start and your typical smart key functions. Nissan still uses a button to lock or unlock, so you can push that to lock it or literally push it to unlock it. There's no sensor in the back like there is with some others. Then climbing inside to take a look at these seats. Of course, Nissan's going to give you their gravity seats. They're zero gravity seats is what they call them, and they are comfortable. They're technically NASA inspired, and I've had no complaints with them. As far as controls, you've got two-way lumbar support, height and tilt adjustment, all the usual. And in here, we kind of have a little sportier looking seat. You've got some of this orange trim in here, kind of mixed in with some perforations in there. Moderate amount of bolstering on here, not bad at all. And the headrest is soft and it's not too far intrusively forward, which is great. So good comfort overall. These seats are heated. They are not ventilated on this one, so something to keep in mind even at this price point, but good space overall. And I've spent a good amount of time in the Altima before and never had any comfort problems. Your heating buttons are right there for you and your passenger, as well as a heated steering wheel button. And this is a leather wrapped heated steering wheel. Now the back seat here, let's take a look at this. So first of all, right over here, you've actually got a nice soft padded armrest, decent grab handle, and a little bottle holder down there. Something to keep in mind for space is that I am 5'9". This is where I can sit comfortably with the front at 5'9", and behind myself, I've still got decent foot space and knee space, so that's not bad at all. Can't really complain. And headroom is also pretty good too. Even with a hat, I can still sit here without it touching the roof. Right in the middle, you've got air conditioning vents, definitely welcome, and a USB-C and USB-A charging port there as well. Even with front wheel drive, we still have a hump in the middle though, so something to keep in mind. However, there is a center folding armrest, which is actually really nice and soft and plush, and some decent sized bottle holders there. To start things up, foot on the brake, push button start right there. So on the door, you actually get a soft upper material right here. This isn't always expected, but this is actually really nice. A good wide armrest. A lot of times these are so skinny and tapered right here that you don't get much, but this is actually soft and comfortable. You even have some of that orange stitching, a little grab handle there, and some storage slash bottle holder. The bottle holder is actually big enough to be able to fit a big mug like that. And since I showed you the Altima a few years ago, things haven't changed much except for this screen. We'll go through that in a little bit, but you've got some more controls to the left over here. Brightness controls, your lane keeping system. Your steering wheel has a pretty easy layout for controls for your center display, for volume, for phone, all kinds of things like that. And you even have some little paddle shifters on there as well. This display in the middle, nothing special. I was kind of hoping to see like a carryover from the Rogue or something where you get a really nice digital display. But even on this SR trim, top SR turbo trim, you still don't get it. Something to think about. But there's a lot of information that you can see on here. You can have trip computers on here. You can have vehicle specific information on here, your navigation, whatever you want. It does take a little bit to get through. And once you start cruise control, it automatically takes you to your cruise control screen. So if you want to be on your trip computer or your music or something, it's going to kick you off of that. Even though this is a sporty trim, we don't have a head-up display in here, but we now get a 12.3-inch screen. This is a large and wide screen, tablet-style screen, but easy to reach, easy to operate. No fuss about it at all. You actually get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on here too, so don't have to be plugged in. And in addition to that, you even get a wireless charging mat down here, so you can actually use the wireless function for both. If you don't want to be wireless, you still have a USB-C and USB-A and a 12-volt power outlet there. This also gives us Wi-Fi on here. We can go back to Nissan's menu. You have shortcuts over here as well, like your music, your navigation, you know, different things like that. You've got different menus on here too that you can go through. So there's kind of a lot that you can customize on here. It's definitely different than, let's say, some of the older Nissans. And then just below that, we have more physical control. So you actually get a volume knob, a seeking button. Then you can even adjust your brightness with this. And we have a 360 camera. So take a look at that. Got a camera like that. You can go in reverse and see your backup camera as well. You can see next to the vehicle. So it's nice that they have this. It just definitely looks like an old camera, kind of low clarity, outdated compared to some competitors. Coming down from there, I like this trim right here. So this isn't a glossy like piano black like up here. This actually has almost a little carbon fiber look to it. So it's something a little bit different, which is nice to see. Plus dual zone climate control down here. This has a nice little feeling to it. I like these big control knobs and dials and buttons for specific things. I showed you your heated seat and steering wheel controls, but it's nice to see actual physical controls in cars because those seem to be going away. Down here next to your knee, you actually have some nice soft stitching right here, or some soft material with this stitching. Your shifter right there. This is technically like your little sport button. We'll go through that. Back here, you even get an electronic parking brake and an auto brake hold, which is a nice function. Cup holders, one thing that surprises me is that they don't actually have like little accommodation rings or something to hold smaller drinks in place, but I haven't really had any problems with it. The armrest is soft. You do have this stitching running right down the middle, which maybe could irritate you just a little bit, but then when we open it up, you've got decent space inside, but there's no light and no charging ports. Glove box over here is not a locking glove box, if that matters to you, but it is soft opening. On this trim, we just get a manual flipping mirror, and honestly, this is refreshing because all the cars nowadays have pretty much a frameless auto dimming mirror where there's a big chunk of the mirror that doesn't actually dim, and you can get bright lights in there that you can't do anything about. You know, you can obviously get one in the Altima, but this one doesn't come with it. A large sunglass holder bin, and then your light controls overhead right here. Everything's pretty basic in here, but I honestly appreciate that. Plus our visor, the entire visor can slide, and look, it's got great coverage, can slide all the way out as well. We've got a manual opening roof right there, and you can open up this glass too. For a sedan, how's the visibility? Taking a peek out the back, it's a pretty big pillar back there. It's not too bad. The rear end almost rises a little bit, so it's a little bit hard to see, but overall, pretty par for a sedan. Under the hood for this 2024 Altima, you still get two powertrain options, even though nothing has changed. I've showed you the base 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, but this one is the 2-liter VC turbo. The VC stands for variable compression. And this particular engine can give you a couple different power outputs. You can get 236 or 248 horsepower, 267 to 273 pound-feet of torque, depending on what kind of fuel you use. This also comes with Nissan's CVT transmission. We'll talk about exactly how that drives and compare it to some other automatics. Now, one perk to the CVT is if you get the regular engine, the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, you can get all-wheel drive, and paired with the CVT, you can still get 36 mpg on the highway with all-wheel drive in a sedan. But you don't get all-wheel drive with this turbo. It's just front-wheel drive here, but you still get good efficiency overall considering the power at 29 mpg combined. All right, y'all, we're behind the wheel of this 2024 Altima, and the coolest thing about this car, this trim of the Altima, is that we get this VC turbo. Their 2-liter turbo, nice and punchy. It doesn't have quite as big of numbers as some competitors, you know, thinking of like the Accord and the Camry. Camry can pump out over 300 horsepower with a naturally aspirated engine. The Accord has more horsepower and the torque numbers are good too. But this is still punchy in its own right and still actually fairly efficient. So we'll get on it a little bit, talk about the driving dynamics. But one thing to keep in mind is that all Altimas get their Nissan Safety Shield 360. So that means you're basically going to have protection from all around you. Blind spot monitoring, forward collision warning, same thing in the back. We've got lane centering, intelligent radar cruise control, all the good stuff like that. So you're really set up with the advanced safety features in here. Now, first impression is that the Altima, it's pretty quiet. It drives very nice, even though this has a sport tuned suspension, so it's going to be a little bit stiffer, but overall it's just a very pleasant car to be in because it starts with the seats are comfortable. It's a quiet startup overall. But let's go ahead and get on it a little bit, test it out. Pedal down. So the one negative I've got to say about the CVT with this is that when you have the pedal down, or if you accelerate and then you decelerate, the second you decelerate, it's almost like it's still playing catch up and you get a little more acceleration after that. Otherwise, the CVT's actually been pretty pleasant and unnoticeable. The kind of transmission where you just don't notice it. You don't pay attention to it. It doesn't get in the way. It's not jerky, and it responds very quickly. It's an efficient transmission. And that's not the same as all CVTs. I was just in a Subaru where the CVT was definitely a little spongy, rubber bandy. So something to keep in mind. And you know, the regular automatics aren't immune to things either. The 8-speed in the Camry has been clunky at times. So they all come with some pros and some cons. But this being the, you know, sporty model of the bunch, I'd expect that. So I just put it in, you know, the DS mode, so you can shift with your paddles if you want. You've got a little more RPM as far as the drive mode goes, and it gets you up to speed darn quick. I'm gonna go ahead and downshift with these paddles just to test that out real quick. All right, so we're in 4th gear, you know, gear essentially, kind of mimicked. 3rd, 2nd, RPMs kick up. If you want to hold the RPM, okay, so it shifted on its own. Once I got a little over 5,000, that time it let me shift. It's actually still fairly quick with that, but this isn't really what it's meant for. This is still a good, comfortable daily driver. You've got good feedback with the steering. It's not super light or super heavy. It's a good blend of the two, and in between, the steering wheel itself is also comfortable. And even though this has a sport tuned suspension, it is still a comfortable ride, which is what most of you are going to want and expect in a car like this. So the reason to get this turbo over the other trim levels with their regular engine, obviously it's much quicker, it's faster driving around town, partial pedal, you just get going in a hurry. Passing power is excellent, but it's still fairly efficient. But it does add a decent amount to the sticker price. So you're not at the top fully loaded trim here, but you're still in the mid $30,000 range, and that's what you get for power. quietness too. This is actually pretty quiet. So these are laminated windows. You've got laminated glass windows, which really help suppress the wind noise. Road noise is pretty good in here too. I really got no complaints as far as the driving dynamics of this Altima. Nissan's done a nice job of making a well-rounded car. It doesn't necessarily stand out a ton in any particular category. It's good all around, and it offers quite a bit too. And this is just pretty darn smooth when you get on it. This turbo responds quickly, there's not much for lag, and it just gets you going. So ergonomics wise, touching the screen is great. It's easy to reach, big screen. It's a fairly new screen. You've got a lot of safety features on here. Easy to use climate controls as well. I mean, I'm comfortable in here. I really have no complaints again. So it's just a well-rounded car that could be good for families, or, you know, just hauling people around, or you just want a sedan now in a world full of crossovers. So to wrap things up on this 2024 Nissan Altima, I love that they still give us this power plant. This is a fun to drive car for the most part. You've got good horsepower and good torque numbers overall, and it makes it a little more engaging for a practical family sedan. It's also quite comfortable. It's got a good amount of features, and it's fairly spacious inside. So for a family sedan, is this something that you would look at or consider, considering its power? Let me know below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.